I like Jesus in that I don't like being put into a box either. I always wanted to be an aside, different from everybody else.
Yeah.
And this house is a bit of a reflection
Yeah.
of that desire to be not boxed up. I've got it.
In today's episode, we have a special treat as we sit down with Cory Eliuk, the owner of Banks and Braes. Cory shares the unique history and vision behind this beautiful establishment, and we get an inside look at what makes this place so special. Stay tuned to discover more about this hidden gem in Rosebud. As far as the Banks and Braes is concerned, tell me how did we get from was this building did you build the building, or was this building actually here and then you bought it and then?
Yeah, I wasn't actually here for it. My wife I've argued with some people where they're like, no, I was here as a child, I've been through this building before when I was young. And I'm like, well, that's interesting because I drew the blueprints. And so it is a ground up construction. People say, well, what was this house before? And I'm like, it was grass. I'm like, what? And it's like, yeah, built it from scratch. I'm like, really? And yes, so it's a new house made to look like an old house. One of my funny lines is I couldn't find a mansion for pennies on the dollars, so I'm building one for dollars on the penny instead. This property, the Turner's property, came up for sale, and it was 3 acres, and we jumped on it. So yeah, we acquired this property, and it's gorgeous. The river goes right around it. 3 acres on 2 parcels.
Well, so this is a brand new build house.
Yeah.
That is built to look older.
Yeah.
So how have you kind of towed the line between, it's 2024, so we have certain rules that the Victorians did not have.
Right.
When they were building houses. Everything seems to be very, tastefully done.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, there's certain things where you wouldn't have it occur in a smaller house, but you might actually have them be pretty close to code on a bigger house because your proportions were enlarged. So where you have to have such and such a wide hallway, for us 4 feet is your minimum width for stairs and hallways and landings and stuff. And so in a smaller house, you wouldn't have had that wide a staircase, and you wouldn't have had so much space to run it as long with a rise and run. But in a bigger house, you might have actually been closer to all right, because you had the room, and quite often in a Georgian-style house, which is what we were going for, sort of door, middle, staircase, center, twin windows going up. If it was a bigger, more glorious house, you'd have a bigger stairwell. You'd have these things. Quite often, you'd have a spindle and rail with an open foyer going up 2 floors. But we didn't want to spend all that money on air. It always bugs me to look. You got these 2-story foyers or living rooms, and I just look at it as lost square footage. And we have 10-foot ceilings on this floor. So we decided to do this library down the middle thing, which I loved and did not want to give up. It will be a more accommodating house. We will have that main floor suite with the barrier-free situation, and the basement suite, actually I didn't tell you about, is quite fun. It is going to be the 221B suite. It has a separate separate bedroom and a kitchen with a peninsula it's got a couple stools to eat at, and then the living room wraps around the bathroom, and it creates a niche where I'm going to do a Murphy bed that goes into a bunk bed. So that'll be like a perfect scenario for you kind of thing. It would accommodate 4 really well. And for longer stays. So if you're doing Drumheller and you want to go for a canoe down the river, or you want to go hiking and you're going to do the theater and you're going to spread it over a week, that would be a great suite where you take care of your own meals and what have you. And so yeah, the 221B Sherlock Holmes themed suite that is currently our art storage.
So this place is clearly a labor of love.
Yeah.
100% clear from the minute you walk in. You're like, wow, you have spent a lot of time on appointing this with art. There's books everywhere. There's the games. There's a grand piano in here, for heaven's sake. You've definitely spared no expense. Is the way to say that. So what inspired you, I guess, to get into this, as far as all the millions of other occupations that a human being could be into?
Well, there's a couple things. Partly it's our skill set, and partly it's our psychosis. And so me and Carrie are both would qualify as hoarders, and there's some hoarders that don't do it well, like they're hoarding the wrong things. And for us, we just like pretty things and like, oh, that's nice, or that's useful, or that's, could be good for somebody. And so we'll hold on to it and to a fault, like we just have way too much of everything. But then there's the benefit of that where it's like, well, now you could do something with it. And so partly this is utilizing that skill to benefit so that everybody can enjoy our acquisition of junk, and we can display it all, and it's like life. It gets to be like show and tell. And so it's a joy for us. For me, the fun part is like if there was a reincarnation, I'd make a great crow. It's like, well, that's shiny. Ooh, I don't know what it does, but I'll put it in my pile, And so that's us, like, well, that's pretty. I really like that. And so we collect pretty things. In fact, one time I was shuffling between stacks of boxes in our Quonset before the house was at all being able to fill anything. So we had just jammed it full, and we're like shuffling between stacks, and my wife's ahead of me, and I'm like, we could be on that show Hoarders. And she's like, that show Hoarders, they make you get rid of everything. And I'm like, no, not that show Hoarders. We got to be on the show Hoarders where you show people how to do it properly. And so it's we like to collect. I'm a carpenter, is my main occupation in life, but I love people. And so getting to interact with people and know them and be interested in what they're interested in and tell them I've got a colorful history, and so I've got lots of stories. So it's fun interacting with people, and so this is a much better fit for me where I can give you a great night's stay. I can build one nice house instead of 100 for one. Like, here's a house for you, and a house for you, and a month later a house for you, and I can give you a great evening in one night. And I built this house beautifully, and everybody can enjoy it. And so come and play in my sandbox, because I've made a great sandbox to play in, and come and enjoy it with me. And it's like a new car smell wears off, right? And for yourself, you're like, well, I'm still making payments, This isn't that great anymore. But when you get somebody to come and sit in your car and you show them all the features and how fast it goes, or how it does this or that, and look at this feature, it's exciting again, and it's fun, and it's fun for them because they're enjoying it. Like, oh, I'd love to have one of these. This is just wonderful. I really love just sitting in your car. It's so comfortable, and it does smell good, and it brings it all back for you. And so that's the joy for me and my wife is sharing it with people. The stuff is no benefit. I've hoarded all this collection. It's no benefit unless my wife is so happy I got her another thing. But at this point, it's like oh, thank you, and you throw it on the pile, but for people that come in, they love it, and then I love sharing it, And so for us, it's just a real pleasure to give people a relaxing time away where they can experience the feeling of being pampered.
I mean, clearly you've got a passion for it.
Yeah.
I mean, the hardest thing is when you're talking to somebody who has passionless about things, and like trying to get information is like pulling teeth.
Yeah. Every question, and then backup questions for sure. Yeah, no, I'll just keep running. And again, like I say, my pleasure is to interact with the guests. The theater is generally 50 plus, and it's not because the theater is aimed at 50 plus. I think it's 50 when people realize the theater's there. They take the time to get out of the city and like, well, yeah, my aunt's been telling me about this theater for years. I should just give it a whirl. And it dawns on you that I should have been doing this for years when she told me the first time, And so you come to the theater and you realize it's great, and that most of the people on the stage are 20 years, 30 years old, and why haven't I been coming? And they're like, nobody told me about this. And your aunt's like, I told you about this, But yeah, no, it's a great place to come.
As a channel, we've been going all over Alberta. So
yeah,
I mean, we might not be going to Jasper. We went to Torrington a couple of weeks ago to the world famous Gopher Hole Museum. I mean, apparently it's world famous, and we'd never heard of it. Definitely something. So check out our video on that one. I'll put it in the comments or whatever.
Yeah.
Where we put that in YouTube, I forget. It always changes. But So my question is, I mean, Torrington is a place that's way out of the way. Most people have never heard of it.
Yeah.
So why Rosebud? I mean, of all the places that you could have decided to plunk down a
Right.
Victorian house,
Yeah.
right? Maybe closer to Calgary or closer to Edmonton or
For sure.
nearer to Banff or whatever.
Yeah, I always envisioned myself going west. I like forests, and here we are, pushing Saskatchewan's border, almost to Drumheller anyway. My wife grew up her teen years in Panburn, which is a little known town in Saskatchewan, south of Swift Current, I think 20 minutes, half an hour. The only thing there is a Bible school and its students and professors and stuff. And so her father was working at the school. He took music ministry and was working there. And so she loved that part of her life. Her brother hated it. So he's in the city and will never live in a little town again. And she always wanted a similar scenario for her children. And also that she knew her children were my children. And I was not the easiest of teenagers to deal with for my parents. And so we're like, we got to shelter these children. We got to get them out of, in a sense, harm's way in the city, and we'll raise them out. And so we were browsing this little town and that little town and looking for a place to raise our family. And nothing seemed quite right. And poor realtor friend of ours that never ended up being utilized to get this property because it was a realtor-free scenario. We drug him across southern Alberta to all kinds of places to look at this little place and that little place. And we'd find a beautiful old house that was falling down and run down. And I'd look at it, and then the windows and the doors are sagging and the foundation's settling. And I'm like, well, I could probably fix it, if I do this. And then you kind of pan right. But I can't fix his house or his house or his house. And so many of these little towns tend to kind of be dying or not being kept up. And in many of them, if they had nicer areas, they were bigger than what we truly wanted. We wanted something smaller. And then we stumbled across Rosebud, and we came to a show. It was a student production, or the studio stage production of, I can't remember the show, Where the Sky Met the Land or something, I can't remember. It was amazing. Like, I was not expecting very much, and we came to the show, we were late, just got in by the skin of our teeth, didn't really notice the town because we were just trying to get there. Saw the production. I was thinking piped in music, high school special, like nothing great, but whatever. Let's go have a good time. It was amazing. Like, these guys live, like mandolin, guitar, singing, and just exceptional. Blew me out of the water. I just couldn't believe how good it was. And I got out and I'm looking and I'm like, well, this town's really pretty. Like, there's a nice new house being built and there's an old house that they've repainted and it's all kept up. And like, everything seemed to, like, they're putting their best foot forward kind of thing. And for me as a finishing carpenter, where aesthetic matters, it's like, oh, that's really nice. I could fit into here. And I love this kind of the faith aspect to the production that we saw. And it's like, I could really see myself fitting into this. And then more finding about the town, that it used to be that dilapidated town that was kind of dying, that had been revitalized through the theater. Yeah, and so I have dreams. I'll get on this guy's dream and we'll dream together, and try and realize an idea. And so in comes the bed and breakfast, which are already several of. Like, there's about a dozen different accommodations in town, and we're attempting to be the fanciest one.
Yeah.
And there's different shelves for different people. Like, for the people that don't, like, this is just way too much, they're minimalists, go to one of the other places that has less stuff. And if you're okay with the busy art everywhere, everything everywhere, then maybe this is the right fit. So there's different strokes for different folks. And when we talked with the majority of people, they're like, no, build it. It won't hurt us. You're not really competing. And the more accommodation the town has, the more people that will use that accommodation. It's not really stepping on toes. When it's busy for everybody. And when it's slow for everybody. Yeah. And so there wasn't really anybody up in arms about, oh, now there's another one that's going to take it all or anything.
So I guess finally, I mean, if you could tell somebody who is traveling kind of Alberta, right, and they've seen this video, they've heard of Rosebud Theater or whatever not,
yeah,
and they're looking for a place, and you're going to give them the why you should be at Banks and Bray, what would you tell them?
Well, Rosebud's a town where a lot of people, you come here for the storytelling. You know, you get out of your routine. You drive for an hour often. You know, from Calgary or Red Deer. It's not super far away. Like I say, very close to Drumheller. We're 20 minutes away from Drumheller. And there are several things, like there's the windmill, and some people, they don't even know there's a theater, but they're going to do it in a windmill, you know, because that's cool. And but like of all the accommodations, we're trying to be the most elegant and fancy. You know, like I had mentioned to you before, a lot of accommodations are really just a bed, and you're here for the theater, or a bed and you came for the museum in Drumheller, or to go to the hoodoos and hiking and what have you, and you really just needed a bed. What we're trying to be is more than a bed. We're a place where you're going to meet up with your friends. You're going to kick back in the drawing room. You're just going to, again, feel pampered and taken care of, and like you are special, you know. And so act like it every now and then, and just take a time to relax and enjoy the moment. And so we want your moment to be a time of reflection that Rosebud can be. Come to see a show and it makes you think, or dream, or imagine, or remember those moments in life that you're missing in your daily grind, and while you're on your little hamster wheel trying to grind it out, get out of that, get off that hamster wheel, and come out and think a bit. And one of my thoughts, you know, I am a Christian, and so you don't know what your purpose is sometimes. You know, like what am I supposed to do? And for me, I want to be a blessing to people. I want to make you happy. I want to encourage you towards something better. Something good, you know. So some people, like, I want to redo my bathroom, and this is a great idea. I love how he did the floor, or I really like crown molding. Why don't we do crown molding? And some thoughts, like I used to feel pretty invincible, often as we do as teenagers, you know, like, oh, I'm going to live forever kind of thing, because I felt like God had some greater purpose, and I hadn't served it yet. And so I felt pretty safe, because like, well, that can't have been it. You know, so I'm probably okay, and I probably abused Christ in the process of that sort of logic. And then I had kids, and I'm like, well, shoot, that very easily could have been it. You think of all the patriarchs of the faith, and really it's getting to Christ. You know, all those people are necessary to get to Christ. Well, after Christ, like, kind of, that really was the important part, you know, like, so after that, what does it matter? And so I'm like, well, maybe my kids, they were the important part, and whatever comes, what fruit comes from them. And so now I'm a little nervous, you know, like that maybe my purpose is served, right? So I don't feel as invincible anymore. But sometimes you think, like, some Tuesday night, somebody's going to come here and have a dream, and that was the whole point, you know, like, and I get to be the home that special moment happened. And there's crossroads in people's lives where they're like, well, I don't know what I should do, but they sit there and they think, and they go, well, I could do this or I could do that. I'd love to be a part of that, where you take the time to think about where you're at, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and reassess. And sometimes it's somebody that trailblazed a different path, which I believe Rosebud is. It's an oddball. It's not like other places. It's not like other towns, and nor am I trying to be like anything else. We are trying to be what we're trying to be, and I want to be that place where somebody might reflect and say, you know, I should probably stop grinding out on the hamster wheel this way and go to a different end. And if I can help facilitate that, have a good conversation and encourage somebody towards a better direction, I'd love to be that.
Wow, that's an amazing way to look at things.
Yeah.
And it is a perfect way to end this conversation, which I've really enjoyed, and I appreciate you answering. To those who are watching, I really appreciate you guys as well. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube things. Check out our Patreon. Thank you to the Banks and Brays folks for giving us a night here. We've had an exceptional time. They talked about pampering people, and they certainly have pampered us right from the moment we got in all the way up until now. It has been absolutely exceptional. So we really appreciate you guys for sure. Really appreciate that. We've got sponsors in the form of Bonfire Shades. So thank you guys for helping us get on this road trip and all that kind of stuff. And until next time, keep exploring.